3 decades, 4 different studies. The democratic pattern never failed, and I have the receipts to prove it. You probably think of the cockroach as a mindless, filthy pest scurrying across your kitchen floor in the middle of the night. But you are wrong. Welcome to WildLeadTube, where animal intelligence is verified. Today, we're exposing a truth that will change how you look at the most hated creature in your home, because they are smarter than you think. Here's the truth they don't tell you. These insects aren't just surviving by luck. They are operating one of the most efficient democratic systems on the planet right now, and it's happening under your feet. In theory, a swarm of insects is just chaotic movement driven by hunger and fear. In practice, it is a highly tuned biological computer that makes decisions faster and more accurately than most human committees. You see them as a nuisance, but scientists see them as a masterclass in collective cognition. This is not a story about bugs. This is the revelation of a hidden social structure that governs their survival. The official story is that cockroaches are solitary scavengers that happen to gather in dark places. The real story is that they are active participants in a complex, leaderless voting system known as quorum sensing. But here's where it gets interesting. Researchers have spent years trying to figure out how thousands of individuals can move as one without a king or a queen to give them orders or directions. The pattern is always there, hidden in the way they interact. If you ignore the science, you're missing the most successful survival strategy in the history of life on Earth, and it's time you understood it. Let me show you the first piece of evidence from the University of Brussels. Scientists there wanted to know if cockroaches were just following the strongest smell or if something deeper was happening in their brains. They set up a controlled environment with 50 cockroaches and 3 identical shelters. If the insects were mindless, they would have scattered randomly between the 3 options. But that isn't what happened at all. Instead, the colony made a collective choice to split into 2 groups of 25, perfectly filling 2 shelters while leaving the third one empty. This validates your suspicion that there is a logic to their madness. Stay with me, because the next part changes everything. When the researchers provided a shelter large enough for all 50, the entire colony moved into that single spot together, showing a clear preference for total unity. This is not a coincidence. This is mathematics. The insects were calculating the optimal density for their group, ensuring that everyone was protected while maximizing their collective resources in a way that seems almost human. Here's what nobody else will tell you about that experiment. The cockroaches didn't have a leader telling them which shelter to pick. They used a decentralized voting process that relied on individual interactions and feedback loops. Think about your own life and how hard it is to get 50 people to agree on a single restaurant. These insects do it in seconds without a single argument, and they do it to ensure their very survival. The cost of not knowing this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how nature works. We assume intelligence requires a large brain and a central command, but the cockroach proves that the group is the brain. Now, let me show you the pattern of the 4-stage democracy. It begins with the exploration phase, where individual scouts head out into the environment to find potential hiding spots or new sources of food. During this stage, each insect acts independently, gathering data about light levels, humidity, and safety. They are like voters doing their own research before the polls open, and they take this job very seriously. But here's the critical part. As more scouts find a suitable location, they begin to emit chemical signals called aggregation pheromones. This is the equivalent of a political campaign starting to gain momentum in a community. See, same pattern. Just like a viral trend on social media. The more individuals that gather in one spot, the stronger the signal becomes, drawing even more curious participants into the potential decision-making zone. Now here's where most people get this wrong. They think the insects are just following a scent, but they are actually counting. They are waiting for a specific number of individuals to arrive before they commit. This is the quorum. In human politics, a quorum is the minimum number of members required to make a meeting valid. In the cockroach world, it is the threshold required to trigger a total colony move. The data reveals that if the number of insects in a shelter is below the threshold, they will continue to explore other options. But once that magic number is hit, the vote is considered closed. The truth is, these insects are performing a complex statistical analysis in real time. They are weighing the benefits of the current spot against the potential of finding something better, and they rarely make a mistake. Here's the mechanism they don't want you to see. It's called tactile signaling. When cockroaches bump into each other, they exchange information about the quality of the site through their antennae and their physical movements. This is not theory. This is documented behavior. Each bump is a data point, and once the frequency of these bumps reaches a certain level, the entire group knows that the decision has been finalized. It is mathematically impossible for a single cockroach to know what the whole colony is doing. Yet, through these micro-interactions, the entire group achieves a state of total consensus that ensures their collective safety. Sound familiar? It should. This is the same logic used in high-frequency trading algorithms and decentralized blockchain networks, proving that nature invented the most advanced technology millions of years before humans ever did. Let me show you the second piece of evidence from the Journal of Behavioral Ecology. Researchers found that cockroaches actually prefer to stay in a group, even if the environment is less than ideal. They would rather be together in a suboptimal shelter than be alone in a perfect one. This highlights a powerful survival instinct where the strength of the group outweighs the comfort of the individual every time. The official story is that they are just hiding from the light. The real story is that they are maintaining a social network that provides them with protection, information, and a higher chance of finding a mate. What you're losing right now by dismissing these creatures is an opportunity to understand the very foundations of social intelligence. We are not as different from them as we would like to believe in our pride. Governments promise efficiency through centralized leadership, but the outcome is often gridlock. Cockroaches promise nothing, yet they achieve perfect efficiency through decentralized cooperation, which is a lesson we should probably start learning. By the time most people realize how complex these systems are, the insects have already adapted to a new environment. Their ability to vote and move quickly is why they have survived for 300 million years. Stay with me, because the next part changes everything. Scientists are now using this cockroach democracy to build better robots. They are creating swarms of small machines that can think and act just like a colony. This is not a bug. This is the feature. By mimicking quorum sensing, engineers can create search and rescue robots that can navigate a collapsed building without needing a central controller to tell them where to go. Here's what they're not telling you about the future of AI. The most advanced systems won't be single, massive brains. They will be swarms of simple units that use cockroach logic to solve complex problems. The real story is that the most hated insect on Earth might be the key to the next great leap in human technology. We are literally building our future on the back of cockroach social behavior. But here's the question nobody asks. If cockroaches are this smart, what else are we missing about the animal kingdom? How many other pests are actually operating advanced societies right under our very noses? The pattern is always there, but we are often too blinded by our own sense of superiority to see it. We look down on them while they are busy outsurviving every empire we've ever built. Let me show you who loses in this scenario. It's the people who refuse to acknowledge the complexity of life. Those who see nature as a resource to be controlled rather than a system to be understood. The math says that decentralized systems are more resilient to failure. If you kill one cockroach, the colony's democracy continues. If you kill a human leader, the entire system often collapses into total and utter chaos. 3 times, 3 empires, 3 collapses. Each one failed because it relied on a single point of failure. The cockroach avoids this by making every individual a vital part of the decision-making process. This isn't prophecy, this is mathematics. A system that distributes its intelligence is always more stable than a system that concentrates it. And the cockroach is the living proof of that universal law. Now, let me show you the third piece of evidence. New research into social pheromones shows that cockroaches can even recognize their own kin and prefer to vote with their family members when making a move. This adds a layer of social complexity that we previously thought was reserved for mammals. They aren't just voting, they are voting with their community's long-term interests in mind, just like we do at the polls. See, same pattern, different species. The drive to protect the family unit and the wider community is a biological imperative that transcends the gap between humans and insects. And it's absolutely fascinating to witness. Here's the twist. If the colony is forced to make a decision under extreme stress, like a predator attack, they skip the democratic process and move instantly. They have an emergency override for their own democracy. This shows a level of situational awareness that is staggering. They know when to vote and they know when to run. They understand the difference between a deliberate choice and a life-or-death crisis moment. What makes this dangerous today is our reliance on fragile, centralized systems. Right now, the same pattern of over-centralization that destroyed ancient civilizations is threatening our modern digital and financial infrastructure every single day. While you're not paying attention, the world is becoming more complex, and our old ways of managing it are failing. We need to look at the cockroach and understand how they handle massive amounts of data. They don't get overwhelmed. They don't get paralyzed by choice. They use simple rules to create complex, successful outcomes. And that is a blueprint for survival in the 21st century and beyond. Ask yourself, if a creature with a brain the size of a pinhead can manage a perfect democracy, why can't we? What is stopping us from achieving the same level of collective harmony and efficiency? The answer is simple. We are obsessed with power and hierarchy, while the cockroach is only obsessed with survival. They have stripped away the ego to leave only the most effective mechanism for staying alive. This is not a flaw. This is the design. Evolution has spent millions of years refining this process, cutting out anything that doesn't contribute to the success of the group, and the result is nearly perfect. Every year this continues. we fall further behind the natural world's efficiency. We spend billions on computers to do what a colony of insects does for free every single night in your basement or kitchen. Here's the real story. We are surrounded by alien intelligences that we treat as garbage. We are so focused on finding life in the stars that we ignore the incredible civilizations living in our own walls. The truth is, once you see the pattern of quorum sensing, you can't unsee it. You'll start to see it in bird flocks, in fish schools, and even in the way human crowds move through a city. It is the fundamental language of life. It is how the many become one. It is the secret to enduring through the ages, and the cockroach is the most successful practitioner of this ancient and powerful art. Let that sink in. The next time you reach for a can of bug spray, remember that you are looking at a creature that has mastered a form of government we are still struggling to understand. I'm about to show you the final takeaway from this research. It's not just about bugs. It's about the very nature of what it means to be intelligent in a world that is constantly changing and shifting. We think of intelligence as an individual trait. We say he is smart or she is a genius. But the cockroach reminds us that the most powerful form of intelligence is always, without exception, collective. Here's what nobody else will tell you. The individual cockroach is actually quite limited. It's only when they are in a group that their true genius emerges, proving that the whole is greater than the sum. This validates your suspicion that we are stronger together. It's a biological fact that has been proven in the lab and in the wild. And it's a truth that we ignore at our own personal peril. Now you see the full picture. The cockroach democracy is a mirror held up to our own society, showing us a path toward a more resilient and cooperative future if we are brave enough to look. But here's the catch. To use this intelligence, we have to give up the idea that one person should be in charge. We have to trust the quorum. We have to trust the collective wisdom of the group. And that's where it gets difficult for humans. We are wired for hierarchy. We want a leader to follow or a villain to blame. But the cockroach has moved past that primitive need for a central figurehead. They have embraced the math. They have embraced the swarm. And because of that, they will likely be here long after the last human empire has crumbled into the dust of history and time. What makes this dangerous today is our refusal to adapt. We are using ancient, centralized thinking to solve modern, decentralized problems. And the math says that it is simply not going to work for us. Right now, the same mechanisms of quorum sensing are being used to manipulate you through social media algorithms. You are part of a digital swarm, but you don't even realize you're being moved. The difference is, the cockroach uses the swarm for its own survival. We are being used by the swarm for someone else's profit. We are the insects in someone else's laboratory, and that should terrify you. The cost of not knowing this is your own autonomy. If you don't understand how collective intelligence works, you will always be a pawn in someone else's game, moving exactly where they want you to go. But here's the good news. Once you understand the mechanism, you can choose to step outside of it. You can become a conscious participant in the quorum rather than a mindless follower of the scent. Knowledge is the only protection. Understanding the four-stage democracy pattern gives you a lens to see the world as it actually is, not as you've been told it is by those who want to lead you. So what should you take from this? First, understand that intelligence is not just about brain size. It's about how information is shared and processed within a group to achieve a common and vital goal. Second, realize that decentralized systems are the most resilient form of organization in the universe. They have no single point of failure, and they can adapt to changes faster than any hierarchy ever could. Third, develop an awareness of the quorums in your own life. Who are you bumping into? What signals are you receiving? Are you making your own choices, or are you just following the strongest pheromone? Before I give you the final takeaways, I want you to think about your relationship with nature. We spend so much time trying to kill what we don't understand when we should be trying to learn from it. The cockroach isn't your enemy. It's a teacher. It's a 300-million-year-old success story that is offering us the secret to enduring through the most difficult challenges the world can throw at us. This isn't theory. This is the reality of life on Earth. The democratic pattern is the most powerful force in nature, and it's time we started respecting the creatures that have mastered it so perfectly. If this revelation changed how you see the world, subscribe to WildLeadTube, because our next video will expose the hidden intelligence of an even more surprising creature that lives in your backyard.